What's up, everybody? We are live on the Swade Soul Show, and today's guest is a legend, a living legend, legendary Trick. We call him Trick, but his real name is Neil Westbrook, Mike Master Trick. He's a friend of mine for many years. We want to bring him into the conversation today. We got Mike Master Trick on the phone. How you doing,
What
Mike
up?
Master
What
Trick?
up?
What we gonna do is bring you in with our optimal, bring it in for the Swade Soul Show. Mike Master Trick, man, it's good to have you on the show, man.
It's
Welcome to
good
the
to be here,
Swade Show.
man.
Man, we got a lot of things we want to talk to you about, man. So just get you down and get some of this real history on what people don't know about you. So I want to definitely let everybody know we got Mr. Neil Westbrook on the line today, and we're going to be talking about
Hey,
the
you know it's an
whole.
S on the end of that, huh?
You know what, man? My people be just messing up, man. You know what I'm saying about that? I don't know how they get,
It's more than
stuck
one
in.
of us.
Man, it's my people, man. You know how that works, bro. Golly, I'm
Yo,
trying to get them right, man. Educate them.
fire that tech dude.
That's what I'm gonna do, man. So we got Neil Westbrooks on the phone today, on the line today. My people straighten it up, get everything right. So Mike Master Trick, man, let us know, man, who is Mike Master Trick, man? Talk to us. Tell us
Oh
about
my goodness, he's just a guy. He he's just a guy that had been in some very extraordinary circumstances and situations. Uh, Blessed to have the experiences and meet the people and do the kind of to do the kind of work I've had the privilege of doing for the years I've been doing it. I guess it's looking. I think I cracked that 40 years in the industry, not a little while back, I think.
it. Real talk.
But just a student of the world and the industry of entertainment as a catalyst for change. You know, um, I was a child prodigy at 7 in regards to tested by Stanford early, IQ wise, and just you start to pay attention at certain points. Whatever, everybody's different, I guess, but you start to pay attention to the path that you're on and or the things that are around you. And for me, I feel like I've been kind of an activist. I was I got bitten by the entertainment bug, I think, early in life when
But
everybody else popped up.
I don't want to jump out of character, jump out of line, because I really want to kind of keep it in play. I want to know a little bit about, tell the people about, you grew up in California, so
Yeah.
explain growing up in California, man, coming through that road, because you came up during a time where hip hop was just now making its mark in the world, and
Hmm.
you had the red and the blue rags coming together. Tell the people about a little bit about that side.
Well, I mean, you got to keep in mind, I was in a little town in California originally. I'm coming from a military family. My dad was in the Navy, attached to the Marine Corps, so we ended up in a little town called Barstow. Um, Barstow is like a if you blink on your way from Los Angeles to Las Vegas, you might miss it. But in that little town, I wasn't a whole lot to do other than sports. We stayed active in that level. But for me, it was an outside area to the major cities. Like at that time, as a youngster, like elementary school coming up, and then so I was basically sheltered in the earlier years from a lot of gang activity, the whole Crips and Bloods thing wasn't really a big thing in my city at the time. It was just more based in like good old redneck racism at the time. But what was ironic was there was this light uh, in that when we would have to listen to radio, we were listening to pop music, what Elton Johns and and Madonnas and acts like that were coming out. And at the same time, though, there was a station called 1580 KDay that was an AM station, and it because it was an AM station. At late at night, we would get it, and we would be sitting in the bedroom, in the corner holding the antenna, just trying to make sure we could tap in. And we would get some urban music, like, and at the time when I first started getting KDay, it was before KDay changed its format to being the first station in the world playing rap music 24 hours a day. And at that point I kind of grew into it because I went from being in a little town called Barstow to moving to Oceanside, California, which happened to be like the home base of the largest marine base in the United States, I guess, per capita. Um, so it was a culture shock and a big jump in a particular direction for me. And at that time, you figured that KDay was banging in LA, and rap music was fresh in New York. And so we're talking like the late 70s, early 80s, when I graduated high school in 82. So at that point, I was supposed to be playing football, all kind of craziness. Some drastic things happened in my family, changed up, and the next thing I know, I was looking at the game of rap as a business, because now I was in Oceanside DJing, and there was a store in Oceanside that used to get records. Like it was a record store. I think it was a Music Center, Oceanside Music Center on Hill Street, which was pretty much the whole stroll. And of course, where you got big military bases, you definitely got host roles. So, so I remember Buffalo Gals came out. You remember Buffalo Gals, Malcolm
Yeah.
McLaren?
On or outside with the Buffalo Girls. Buffalo
Yep,
Girls. Yeah, I
yep.
remember
So
that. Yeah.
Buffalo Gals came out, and at the time, I was like one of the few DJs that was interested really in playing, something that was an alternative to maybe necessarily the what I called the disco stuff or pop stuff. And you know, the guy that owned the record store, when he would get his new shipments in, he didn't know what was hot. He was, kind of a square cat, but he had a good little business sense and everything. And so he would ask me to pick records. And so I would go in there and, listen to the new joints. And I remember Buffalo Gals caught my attention because it was just so different. And I remember telling him, man, this one right here, you need to order this. And next thing you know, that song was huge in the area because we were playing, we were DJing houses, we were DJing high schools. I was playing on the military base, playing all the spots there. Actually, there's a individual that I met in the industry early that became very prominent in the industry, and a man named Kevin Black. Well, y'all know him as Kevin Black. I know him by a different name before that, but he used to be in the military. He was stationed at Camp Pendleton. So, we had a lot of influence on what was going on with the music as DJs at these clubs, and so I just kind of watched the whole trend change. But it was kind of ironic because I remember even a big nightclub in it was a club in Escondido, California called the After Dark, and it literally was being built and structured and everything. And I walked by one day while they were doing it, and I asked what they were doing and what type of music they were going to play. And I had established myself pretty decent as a DJ, and they said they were opening a nightclub and that they hadn't hired their DJs yet. And I was like, well, I got a bit of a following, and so they basically had me open the club, and so I did all their media stuff, and we packed it out, and but then I watched things change because the music that I was playing was kind of a underground music at the time. So as a DJ, I was bringing in a following of people that wanted to hear that music, but the moment that people would see the diversity of that crowd, it was a little bit scary to them. So I could remember being a DJ playing, and then like when too many people of color would come in the door, the manager or the owner of the club would come and say, "Hey man, change that to like Madonna or something." Play. They want to change the music up, and then I watched the culture try to act like hip hop was not, like they had no interest in it, like it's a trend, it's a fad, this and that. And then you do the math, and you see that, like, yeah, okay, so people of color might be making the music, but they're not the ones buying
Right. So
it.
so get into a little bit of when you started working with, say, at World of Wheels and the things you were doing on that side.
Oh, World on Wheels. Okay, well, well, ultimately I became, a part of the KDay situation. Of course, starting out as a fan, but they ended up doing a thing called the Best Rapper in the West contest, and it was about 900 groups, and we pretty much kicked everybody's ass. Um, and saw some real interesting behind the scenes things, because at that time, even as early as that was in the game, like the rap game, they kind of already, the business already kind of knew what they wanted to do with it. They were like, yeah, we want two guys, we want them to be able to be like Heckle and Jekyll, and we'll just put them out, and that's what we want. So anything beyond that or more creative than that was kind of scary, and a little bit less attractive, I think, in the beginning of the game. So for me, like coming into KDay, World on Wheels was like, whoo, like when I say I had culture shock, because I came from a little town in Cali, and all of a sudden now I'm in LA from Oceanside, which was San Diego County, and of course another thing of all its own metropolis of its own, and then moving to Los Angeles was like, whoa, because first of all, my first real experience in, I mean, I had family members that lived in LA that I had gone to, and like, you're a kid, you're riding in the car, you don't really know where you're going, you end up on the block, but your family's there, so it's their block, and you don't really see all the, things that are really, really going on in that element, at least, not when you're sheltered like I was at that time. But KDay changed the game for me, because I remember my first show, uh, we did our first show was at a place called, uh, was it Skateland? I think. Yeah, it was Skateland USA, and Skateland actually was featured in Straight Outta Compton, because that's the place where Easy and them went, and it was all red, and Easy, of course, being blue. It was like, are you sure you want to go in there? Like, and I can tell you that the way they made it in the movie, that was a rare situation, because they were deep in that bad boy. All red shoes, red pants, red shirts, hats, shoelaces. It was nuts. And I'm backstage with Curtis Blow and Tony G, and we had been there all day setting up gear. We pulled up in a blue van, and unbeknownst to me, like that was my first big gig there. So we setting up the gear, and all of a sudden I see Tony Z pull a sawed off shotgun out of one of the Sherwin Vegas.
Right.
And I'm
Well,
like, yo, what's really good in the hood right now? Next thing I know, he's like, okay, grab that other speaker, and a 9mm fell out of that bad boy. I was like, oh
damn,
yeah,
it is for real.
it's about to get real. And
Skate
so,
joint.
that was like day one, I think, and that might have actually been going to setting up at World on Wheels, but of course, World on Wheels was like the Crip spot. Like, 3,000 deep Crips every like whatever Friday night. We did Friday night. We used to do a thing called Friday Night Live at and it was in various places, but World on Wheels had it. We had it there for a long time, and I remember like the routine pretty much was like walking out of that bad boy at the end of the night, and it'd be like 300 cats up against the wall, helicopters up in the air,
God, dog.
I mean, regularly, man. Like, just like, okay, good night. Like,
That's speaking of. I mean, with the people that you were hanging with at the time, you had a deal. You had a record deal. Tell us a little
yeah.
bit about that.
Well, I got, I mean, I started in the game in Oceanside really with a cat called Mad DJ Mix and Magic. And like I said, I was a DJ, so I was DJ Trick, and and at the time, the battle thing was a real thing. Like, we came up a little bit and we were doing shows and stuff, and all of a sudden, we were getting challenged by like these competitors from across town. Like, oh, we want to battle you guys, and like, we had a name, so it was like, you want to battle us, like, like what y'all got, we want, you know. And so now all of a sudden it's like, okay, so it's like, cats battling for their car pinks, right? Like, oh, you guys want to drag race? Well, if you get a reputation, why are you going to drag race a cat unless you can get something out of it, right? So it became like, okay, well, we're gonna battle for gear, and that became like a real thing. So we really were challenged to battle another crew based on it. Whoever rocked the house better would walk away with the other crew's gear, and the other one wouldn't be able to do shows no more because they be done.
Gotcha.
Okay. Well, not only did we stomp the show and win the battle, but we also let the crew keep their gear because we felt like it was helping the culture.
Oh man.
The
Okay.
fact that there
Okay.
was other crews doing stuff. So, that was early in the game, and then of course from that during the contest we end up transitioning up to LA, which is kind of dope because me and Magic had kind of dominated the San Diego scene on the DJ tip. So we thought we were going to go to LA, right? And I told this to recently to Lonzo Williams, because this is of the Wrecking Crew. You familiar with the Wrecking Crew?
Of course.
uh,
World
from
class
Dr.
record crew.
Dre's original early
Right.
days. And so the irony of this is that me and Magic drive up to LA because we're gonna audition at this high school. So we got a trailer full of gear, and we're little cocky motherfuckers coming from San Diego County. We done dominated SD like it ain't shit, And then we got to LA and we pulled up to the high school, right? And we see these guys going into the school before us. They got on these badass jackets that said Wrecking Crew, world class Wrecking Crew.
Okay.
And just based on their swagger and their outfits, bro, we knew we were out of our league.
Gotcha.
Straight up, like we were just like, damn.
These
We
big
gonna go
boys.
in there looking like the janitors and shit and trying to ask for a job when these niggas walking up in here looking like they just got off of a world tour.
Right. Right.
We ain't ready. Let's take it back to the drawing board, bro. me and, but I'll tell you what though, it stepped our game up though. So now, and at the time we were more about the DJ thing, and then I kind of transitioned. That's kind of how I started transitioning into being more like the MC. And Magic was, he was a magical motherfucker on the turntable, so he didn't have to really consider transitioning. He was one of the coldest mixed niggas in the world that I ever seen, and so he maintained that low key spot, and I just grabbed the mic and started rocking the microphone and went from being DJ Trick to Mic Master Trick. Then we jump in this contest. I end up training a couple females. Now we're rocking a contest sponsored by KDay, Sugar Hill Records, and a bunch of other entities, I guess. We end up kicking everybody's butt in that. Ice Cube, I think, was even in that competition, and pre NWA, and yeah, and I think that went down at the Hollywood Palladium.
Wow.
So we
So
did
how did
that, and then
so how did that lead to the
well, that lended
MCA?
to that led to Greg Mack making an offer, because he kind of got to meet me and Rose, because Rose Hutchinson was Lady T. Uh, Lady T, which was like her nickname as a kid coming up in high school and stuff was Twinkle. And
Okay.
so because she was Twinkle, I called her Lady T as her stage name. I gave her that name, and then of course I think it was just after that. I think what's her name came out with Square Biz.
Tina Marie.
Tina Marie came out with Square Biz. It's just lots of ironies, man. I've always been one that likes to watch God's mathematics and try to stay on the right path. So you know, and the whole thing with the blessing of the label thing was I was booking. Okay, so there was this we were booking there's a big venue in Oceanside called the Oceanside Beach Amphitheater, and next to it was a like a gym, and the gym held about 2,000 people. So we end up getting hired by this lawyer whose daughter was graduating from high school, right? And he was like, well, I want to teach my daughter responsibility and and business and blah blah blah. So I'm gonna give her a budget to produce an event that she's gonna hire you guys to play music and promote it. And so we had a budget for the first time to get an artist. And so there was a girl group that was hot at the time, like a group out of California. I don't know if it was like Boom, I Got Your Boyfriend, some craziness, some song, like it was like some like not real cerebral, literal, lyrical song, but at the time it didn't really take much, and if you were a female, it take even less
So
to
was that
make
was that
somebody
JJ
listen to.
Fad around that time?
It
Boom,
was
I got your
before
boyfriend.
JJ Fad actually.
Okay.
And the dude it was a guy named David Williams that had a label out of like Santa Barbara, California, and he had an artist that was just it was like one of those early like not much onto the production, and some female with a little attitude and some lyrical content, and she had a record that was kind of hot at the time, and so I was reaching out to the label to book her, and in the process of talking about booking her, I was like, so how do you pick acts? And then he said, well, people send me stuff, and if I like it, I record it. So I was like, well, I said, I got a group. Next thing I know, he's calling me up talking about he's got studio time. And this how God works. He said he's got studio time. He's in a studio called the Mixmaster Studio in San Diego.
Oh wow.
This
Well, just so
before I
you
was
know,
with,
back up. That was Luscious. MC Luscious.
is that what it was?
That boom. Yeah, boom. I got your boyfriend.
Oh, okay. So it wasn't her. It was a song like that, and it was a
Right.
song that actually became. There was even before that MC Luscious track. This dude, uh, uh, it was like Ron Choice Records was the name of the record company. David Williams was the label owner, and it was out of Santa Barbara. You got to keep in mind, I had an accident. Some of this stuff I don't remember all of. I might miss a beat or two here, but uh, so he offered us a record deal by way of calling us up. He called me up one day and he's like, "I'm in the studio. Can you get down here? I'm at the Mixmaster Studio. Here's the address. Come ready to record." So I ended up calling up my boy Magic, who wasn't a rapper, and one of the well, I called the two females that I had trained, but one of them was available, and that was Lady T. So we all jumped in the car. I got lyric sheets for the song that I'm writing on the way down to the studio. I
Got
give everybody a verse, and then we go in the studio and lay a song. That was the first record we ever made. It was called Fly Guys.
you. Okay. Wow.
Now so then very I don't know. So now all of a sudden we doing shows and getting limos and getting booked to play at the only spots that would play teenage stuff, or there were youth venues. There was a club called Stratus in San Diego that we were like headlining over there. That was like the first step into the big leagues. We had a bodyguard and limos and manager and that kind of thing. And then next thing you know, we did our second record. When our second record came out, KDay took note to it, but at the same time, Greg Mack wanted us or wanted me, and I basically was like, "Look, we got a group." And so Greg basically was like, "Look, I got the coldest DJs on the planet. I don't need no more DJs, and you're the MC that I want to be the vocalist for the mix master." So then I told him no. I turned it down because I said, "No, I'm in a group." And then I went back home to the group, and Magic was like, "Dude," he's like, "You're bugging right now." He said, "You better go get your foot in that door." And
So that led to them coming to get Curtis Blow, the infamous Curtis Blow, to produce your first album. Is that correct?
Yes, sir. That's exactly correct. So, so before Kurt got on our project, remember the LA Dream Team?
Of course.
Ladies and gentlemen, so their producers were, so they were actually the first rap group signed to MCA Records or Universal, the LA Dream Team. So when we so our first deal, when we got the deal, basically Greg Mack owned the mix masters. I ultimately brought the female that I trained into the group too, and so now we're in the mix masters, and the first project they got us doing is being produced by the same producers that did the LA Dream Team's joint. And again, I can picture the guys, two gentlemen that produced the track, Tracy Kendrick and the names, it'll come to me, but these two cats produced the LA Dream Team's first hit, second hit, I think, and so they produced our first single. And for me, it was different because I never had anybody tell me what to do in the studio. You know what I mean? Like I was, I did my shit. I wrote my lyrics. And I delivered my delivery how I felt it was supposed to be done. This, when I got signed, and it ultimately was through Greg Mack and the Mixmasters that we got signed. When we got signed, everything changed. So now my first experience is in the studio, and I'm excited because they're like, "Oh, we're going to the studio that George Clinton recorded a lot of his hits out of, Flashlight and different songs that George Clinton and P Funk had done." And of course, that was amazing in itself to be working out of that same studio. That studio had history, but then now it became awkward for me because now I'm working with guys that are telling me how to deliver my lyrics, and I'm just like, it was a struggle because I didn't want to be disrespectful to the deal or act unappreciative, but at the same time, I was like, I think I know what I'm doing, like, you know what I'm saying, and so that was the interesting first single, but that first single was called Dance. I hated it, with all due respect. I hated the song, but it got the attention of Curtis Blow's wife, Shirley. And
Okay.
that in itself got the attention of Curtis Blow. Then the next thing we knew, Kurt was moving to California to produce our first single, and then which became our first album project on Universal. Um, so we so he produced the second single we ever put out, which was called Boys and Girls. He actually rapped on that song also, and then he produced our album, which was an extraordinary experience, because it was fully funded through Universal. We were working in all the high end studios. It was a very extraordinary experience. And then during that timeline, I got approached by a guy named Dunlap, Mike Dunlap. He was a bass player, a session musician mostly, but played a lot with the Commodores. And he had been commissioned to do a song with Warner Brothers, and Richard Perry was producing the project. I believe they gave him like a living legend Grammy not too long ago, a few years back. But This is the guy that did like Donna Summers and Diana Ross and stuff like that. Thelma Houston was one of his artists, and of course, I get a call from Dunlap, and he basically says, well, we got this song with Thelma Houston that they tried 2 rappers before you, but I told them that they should give you a shot because that you'd be the one that'll do it. And I was like, well, who did it before me? And they said, Kumo D and Ice T. And those are 2 people I had a great deal of respect for their lyrical
Right, right.
prowess.
Of
Huh?
course, legends themselves.
Yeah, yeah, absolutely. But then they went with my lyrical delivery and my verses, and it ended up being really kind of ironic because uh, it was a Thelma Houston track, and she ends up using Felix the Cat references, which she says, they call him Felix the Cat because he reaches in his bag of tricks, and I'm just like, what? And this was song. I mean, those were lyrics that were written before I was involved. So
So the word trick played right into it.
yeah, it did. It was like bag of tricks. I mean, because the song was called "What He Has," and it was really a kind of it was a trip because it was like what he has. I can't do without. Like and it made it sound like this was this very simple guy that has good character. He may not be rich. But he's a good guy, and I love him. And so it was like a really appropriate song for me to get on, and then I served up a pretty decent lyrical delivery. And I guess the project before that, working with the guys from uh, the Dream Team, uh, basically what that did was it kind of prepped me for working with Richard Perry because he was the most hands-on producer I had ever met. Um, and I thought, like so I took my mother to the session because it was like, she's all excited. We were at Paramount, like we were at, or not Paramount, but the studio right by Paramount was like Studio 55, I think. Um, so so she's all excited because she's a Donna Summer fan and Diana Ross fan, all that. So I had my mother there with me, and I'm in the vocal booth, and Mr. Perry's in the engineer booth, and they're really far apart in this studio because it's huge, right? An orchestra can be recorded in this studio. So I'm stressing out because I've never worked with him before. He's never worked with me before. We've never worked together, and so we don't really know each other. And I didn't want to like screw up the deal or the situation that I was brought there for. I wanted to make everybody happy, but I was nervous, and so I wanted to smoke some weed. and
Right.
and uh and so I was stressing out, but I was like, I just got to be honest. And so I said, "Excuse me, Mr. Perry, um, would you mind if I uh go outside and smoke a joint real quick?" And he was like, "Only if you share." And I was like,
That's good.
"Oh yeah, it's going down."
I
Oh
love it.
man, that was like, and I'm like, I'm looking at him like he's like somebody's dad or grandpa, like he's like the square OG, and then he was like, "Man, stop playing. Where the weed at?"
I love it. Hey, so explain your journey on how that led you to coming into the meeting of the demo record side.
Wow. Okay, so I had an 8 album deal with MCA Records with Universal, and like I said, Curtis Blow produced the first album, and then well, during the first album we had problems because I ended up in a pretty tumultuous situation with the female in the group, that I brought to the group, trained, was writing all her lyrics, and we had gotten romantically involved, and of course that ended up being drama, and so the next thing that happened is she ends up uh, joining forces with Dee Barnes, who is the girl that Dr. Dre ended up having a lawsuit with because she got beat up in a club by him.
And
And
didn't Eminem mention her name on a record?
he did, yeah, he did. Like, oh, all that from the man that slapped D Barnes. Yeah, he did more than slap her, but yeah. So she ends up. Well, and the crazy thing is that Greg had brought D in to actually replace Rose. Like originally, that was like the original thing that was going on. So it was it was heavy, man. And then when D and Rose linked up, they were just like, "Girl, bitch, what? We need it." And next thing you know, Body and Soul was born. But also behind that scene was a guy named Def Jeff, who like kind of on the low was producing this group behind Greg's back, behind my back, everybody's back, kind of in a way. I mean, but that's my nigga. I mean, I helped him set up his studio, and it wasn't like they had any exclusivity to working, and he just put something together that for them worked, and they bounced out, and you saw them on the All in the Same Gang video. Because it was Body and Soul, JJ Fad, Ice T, NW. It was pretty much all the LA groups except for me and Lonzo.
Wow.
Like two real players in that situation. But so how I got to Demo was I ended up having a major car accident in 1992, July 11th, 1992. I had a major car accident. I got thrown from a vehicle. They were like, you shouldn't have survived, blah, 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 whoopty wop. But that left me with what they call mid-grade amnesia. And I was in recovery in the hospital, and I met this little kid that was terminal, and he was like 11, and he had such an extraordinary spirit, man, that it just had me totally look at my life in a different way, and uh, I didn't I didn't want the pity party from my label. I had just shot a video. I mean, it was just a lot going on that was really upwardly mobile. I was on my way headlining a rave at the time, actually. It was either Denver, I think it was, yeah, a rave in Denver, and I was on my way to that, and um, I had a family member come in from England, and I rerouted my plans and ended up doing a drive that ended up almost costing me my life. But when I was in recovery, um, I was in San Diego. After the accident, I actually got flown in by Pete Wilson and put in his suite at one of the hospitals in San Diego. Long and short of it is, I was recuperating, and I had, earlier that year, I had been uh, nominated as one of the top 10 acts in San Diego. And when they got us all together, they did a photo shoot and everything, and interviewed us all. And it kind of became clear to me that I had kind of had the largest accolades, no matter whether it was country or rock or jazz or blues or whatever. I had a major label deal. I had been representing, my city, San Diego, at that time, throughout the world and the country, not just in the city. And nobody there had a major label deal. And long and short of it was, I felt like, I was accomplished within that group. And then after I had my accident, I find that there's a award ceremony for a music awards that doesn't even have a category that I could be nominated in, but other parties that were in that group were, there's categories for them, whether they were nominated or not. There's categories for them. So I wasn't even supposed to be standing up, and I was out picketing the music awards. The next thing that happened, and it's a little blurry for me how it even happened, because I can't fully recall. That's probably something that Arthur Mitchell could answer better. But I had decided at that time that I was going to start at my own label, right? And I didn't want the pity party from Universal, so basically I basically quit them with maybe a year or two left in my contract. By way of my video production, which my mother and I executive produced. I produced. Curtis Blow co-produced. It was shot by a college graduate from UCLA, Tom Sowards, and so the video got shot and everything, and then I ended up having a major car accident. So after all of that recovery and everything, I ended up meeting Arthur, and I believe um, he had a label, and I might have been producing a show or something, and he had an artist that was named. Oh, what was that artist's name?
Justice.
Justice. That's right. Wow, that's right. Oh, wow. Yeah, so he had an artist that was named Justice. Now,
Do you remember Justice? Do you remember Justice's most unique trait that would happen before every show
yes, he would throw up.
and have like a mini heart attack?
Dude, I witnessed it. Like, but this is what I was going to say. And I mean, I'm not to get it twisted. I'm a give him blessing because he was just a genuine kid. You know what I mean?
He
No
was. He
real. I don't
was. There
really
was
have
nothing there
nothing.
to it.
Huh?
You're right. You're right. He was just a genuine kid that just he was new to the game at the time, so he
And
was
so
very
what he
nervous.
really had was he had stage fright.
Wow. So that's
I
how
mean,
I met you. That's how
he
I
had
met you at a
he
Justice
had
concert.
he had classic uh 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 he had classic traits of stage fright.
I
I mean,
remember.
and it would mess with his nervous system in a real way. I mean, I've I understand. I understand the concept of what he goes through because technically, and I'm sure you understand it too. It's kind of one of those things that you go through every show in some way.
Manner, right? It might be mild.
Yeah, it might be mild for others. It's not mild.
Right.
For us, I mean, to be frank, you can ask Diana Ross about it, and she'll tell you if this shit is not in order this way, this way, this way, I'm stressed the fuck out.
Understood.
So yeah, so I get it, but yeah, so I kind of came in and coached him through, and basically what I did and the way that it ended up working is I ended up collaborating with him so that I could be on stage with him and kind of show him the way that you get it done, you know,
Okay.
to put it mildly. But he was a good kid. I liked him. Just real nervous when it came to doing the show. And he didn't have bad lyrical content, but boy, you can't really be an MC and have stage fright.
No, that's real. So let's go back to the San Diego Music Award because you won that in the
Well,
past two times in a
yeah,
row.
after I picketed it first.
Yeah. So
So
go
I
through that
picketed it
scenario.
first, and it's kind, man, it's when you grow up to be an adult, you start recognizing things that happen, whether you're doing it or someone else is doing it. Especially, as you get up in age, you start seeing kids do things, and you could tell they're kids. You know what I mean?
Of course. Of
And
course.
in this case, so I feel like I picketed them based on a genuine situation, and it was racist based. Uh, I mean, the long and short of it is that they didn't see a need to incorporate, you know, people of color in that way, and so because I felt that that wasn't right, I stepped to it when it changed. It may have been out of duress, but it changed, and the very first thing they did was they nominated me, had me perform, and then cut me off in the performance, and then I didn't get the award. I was supposed to what, turn into a crazy ghetto nigga, I guess. And that didn't happen in any way, shape, or form. Matter of fact, I slapped him in the face because they talked so much mess about rap. By the time I went to perform, the first song I did was a Earth, Wind, and Fire ballad. So that it would be very clear that we don't rap because we can't do nothing else.
Overstood.
You feel me? And they got the point too. And so the very following next year, I got nominated and won. I believe I feel like I was out of town. Like I feel like I was in Atlanta or somewhere when I during the, like, I didn't make it to that ceremony, but at that point I think I was with Demo Records and such, uh, and you know, of course, you know, I got the opportunity to work with some extraordinary people over there, whether it was Harold Whaley or Miriam Graham or you know, or Arthur
The
Mitchell.
late great Shorty.
Say again.
The late great Shorty.
Did
Shorty.
you? Whoa, 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 whoa! You just said? Did you say the late great?
Yeah, Shorty. Shorty passed several years ago.
Dude, wait a minute. I did not know that.
Well, I'm sorry to be the one to tell you on your show, but
Wow.
yeah, she did.
And that was I was you tripped me out because I heard the late great part, and it just bugged me out because I'm like, what? Wait a minute. Like, yeah. Oh man.
Shorty was our flagship female project on the label during that time.
Yeah, and matter of fact, and of course, the great Harold Whaley, and you know, I mean, we toured together. I mean, I remember training Miriam in
All of
management
us. You trained all of
on
us
that
in a
tour,
lot of stuff. Yeah, you trained
huh?
all of us. You trained all of us on that tour. So all
I remember
I've got
it
some
was an
skill. I've got some skill sets that I didn't have on that skill set on that tour before meeting you. So absolutely.
Hey, you see this hat? We can
Yeah, I
find
see.
you, bro. But don't
I
get it
understand. I understand.
twisted.
No, but another thing. Let's talk about some of the unique things you did about the time you threw that big party at the customs terminal in San Diego.
Oh,
Let's
you
talk
trying to
about
get
that.
me arrested, huh?
Come on, man. No, we gonna they done already changed the law
Okay,
since
okay.
then. You can talk about it now.
I think we did already did the what is it like statute of
Statute of
limitations?
limitations, yeah, you passed that one.
Yeah, I think it's 7 years, like for real though. Like, yeah. Okay, so all right, so you know, like okay, so I came out of the major label scene, and I linked up with Arthur Mitchell, who is probably one of the most incredible sales minds that I've ever met or been privileged to meet. You know, we didn't always see eye to eye on everything, but Arthur's a powerhouse in his field, and which you definitely know. Uh, and so basically, on an underground level, so we were producing events like Juneteenth, and you got to keep in mind that when myself and Magic, when we first took on Juneteenth, for example, it was like, what the heck is that and why, and nobody knew, nobody understood. So the first time that we did it, 300 people came out. Well, we came at it hard the next year, and so within 11 months after the first event, we saw 30,000 people. um the thing is, for me, when I saw 30,000 people, I wondered how come I didn't at least come out of there with $30,000.
That makes
So,
sense.
you know what I'm saying? Like, I mean, I'm not asking for that much, but if we're doing it like that, can I get $1 a head? you know
Real talk.
and so we got into a thing where, between my experience in LA and my experience in San Diego and my experience in small town, I think I cultivated a mindset that was about the entertainment being different. Because, see, if you consider that there was if you remember back in the day when you would go to a nightclub, the dance floor was like 12 by 12, right?
Correct.
Okay. And so we impacted the scene by way of going, okay, look, you got to design these venues differently, bars got to be designed differently, because at the end of the day, if people are not dancing, then you're selling less drinks. So
Makes sense too.
so now we're looking at spaces going, okay, you know it's if we're catering to people dancing, and we're doing it in the club scene, the club gets packed pretty quick when the DJ really is actually focused on the vibe from the door in, the and catering to the vibe of the venue, not just, oh, I practiced this one particular set and I'm gonna do it no matter who's there. More like the DJ culture changed because more cerebral DJs became existent, and so the venue had to consider that now you got DJs that are looking at how can they make you more money. They're not just going, we want to play. They're going, we want to play and we want to get paid more. And
Right.
so everything adjusted, and and I know that physically we had a hand in a lot of that, and what ended up happening is that the venues became too small. And what would happen, and what I also found was like, if you want to have a good venue, you want to have some high-end clientele, you want to have some A-list guests that want to come to your venue. That's the way you're really making it pop, right? So the thing that we found is that the more that we would bring celebrities to a spot, the more we would have to have a particular type of clientele in order to even support that. Like like Janet Jackson's not going to go to a club where every guy that sees her is trying to hit on her, you know, or wants to get an autograph or wants to take a picture with her. You know what I mean? Like, that's not the kind of place that she wants to go kick it and have fun at. And
Right.
so we kind of started on that level where it was more like, we don't want to discriminate by saying, you have on the wrong kind of shoes, or you have on a hat that we don't like, or you have on cheap pants. We don't want to discriminate in that way, because as well as wealth really is not determined by your outfit, because as well as I do, some of the wealthiest people don't give a fuck what they're wearing when they go out.
True. True.
Okay, so there was this line of segregation that had been happening, and of course it was still hidden in dress codes, or things like that. So all of a sudden, if you don't want to have no black people there, you have a dress code that caters to stripping down a black person. you know we don't allow tennis shoes, we don't allow ball caps, we don't and technically I watched the culture change, even to the point where those things were not thorough enough. Because now all of a sudden every kid's wearing sneakers, every kid's got a ball cap on, every like all of a sudden the trend that as and ironically, I watched it happen as hip hop culture transcended, you
Right.
know and so then so you consider that we started finding venues, and I kind of became good at like locating them, like um locating a location, a virgin location. So you had this culture kind of developing from the underground, and it started to develop. It started out where you could do, if it was a house party and you could get 300 people at your house, you could play the music that they weren't playing on the radio, and people were dancing to it. Then we just started having to have bigger venues because people's houses weren't big enough. Next thing you know, we're pulling, you know, thousands of people, and the biggest issue became, now you got the police trying to break it down, or you got some knuckleheads trying to find it and come out. So then we had to get it to where we almost were hiding the locations, to where we wouldn't even tell you where the location was till the day of. And so ironically, in '97, two of the most extraordinary events probably in the history of events took place. One of which, and they were about a week apart actually. Um, One I produced from scratch, and it was called Eternity, and that was where we took over the cruise ship terminal in San Diego, California. A lot of laws have changed, and a lot of structures have changed around that building since then. And it was a customs building because it's the international cruise ships come in, they go through customs right there. And so we took that event over based on, and we're talking about talk about an intricate underground. Just getting that venue was an intricacy of its own. That venue is part of like the secret underground government of the United States, like in a real way. And the interesting thing was how we got the building was by giving them the impression we were doing a martial arts convention, which we did, and it was legitimate. All major people there. My bodyguard at the time, two-time international martial arts Hall of Famer, Sifu Grandmaster Spider Cow, very, very respected in the martial arts community, who was also a part of that martial arts conference. So we had a martial arts conference being promoted separately as its own event. Within that martial arts conference, we had a after party kind of set up for them. So they saw the flyer with all the acts on it, like, oh my God, everybody from Digital Underground to Curtis Blow, Furious Five, Africa Bambaataa, Africa Islam. We had DJs of every kind, jazz, blues, R&B. I remember even a didgeridoo band was on that ticket.
I remember it was such a great event to the point that they changed the laws in San Diego after that. Well, Trick, I got about 3 minutes left on here with you, and I want you to talk to people and tell them about what you got happening right now in the game, so that we can look out for what you're doing next.
Wow! Oh, that's awesome. Well, prepare yourselves, world, because not since 100 years ago when they founded the NFL has something extraordinary as this jumped off. It is the Elements League, the UBC Championship, which is a pro-am hip-hop sport. All 4 elements in competition worldwide. 7-man teams in a way like you've never seen hip-hop before. And that's the main thing going on. My TV show kicks back off on the 24th of October, 2020. We're doing a investment party and launch party on the 24th at 3125 Tempe, Arizona, 3125 52nd Street, South 52nd Street in Tempe, Arizona. Anybody who's in the vicinity, come on out, say hello, give us a shout. Tune in to me on the radio. I'm in KFSM in Cleveland, Ohio, every Sunday, 2 to 4, I believe it is their time, 12 to 2 my time. But once again, this is the man they call King Trick. I've been blessed to be here with you, man. I appreciate you having me on your show. Hopefully you let these people know that you are so extraordinary on vocals too. Don't get it twisted. This dude is a beast.
Man, I appreciate you. This though was your hour. I wanted to make sure people got a chance to know who Neil Westbrooks with an S, my damn staff, got it together now. So you know. So it's right.
Hey, the dude you fired, tell him I'm hiring over here.
You hiring? Okay, I'll let him know that, man. So, man, I really appreciate you on the first ever Swade Soul Show. I put my brother, my friend, my person who's been around the world with, Mike Master Trick, Neil Westbrook. We thank you, man. We're going to be back with you very shortly, man, and we appreciate you, man. Thank you.
Book. We don't play, man.
Sweet.